Good morning, everybody. This is Ryan Bowman back at it again, aka Limoto. It is actually 9:45 now, at least 20 minutes before I actually wanted to record. I had to deal with a few updates on my laptop and also clear a little bit of space because my laptop is not the greatest compared to, other good recording sessions. Anyway, so welcome to episode 3. And as you can probably see with this background picture, we have three very special games to talk about today. But first, before we do that, I want to get into a little bit of introduction, like usual. First off, thank you very much to everybody that supported the last episode about fighting games. I was very, very glad to have gotten feedback on it, and also get a few pointers here and there, so... And honestly, it's just I'm glad people enjoyed it for the most part. Viewership was also pretty good as well. I was very happy about that much. So, hopefully we can keep that up. Anyway, other than that, today we're talking about 3 special games of mine that are turning 20 years old this year. Granted, none of these games are close to my birthday. Oop, I just spoiled that. Yep. As of today, in 22 days, I am turning the big 2-0. That's right. I am finally getting out of the dreaded 19 years old, which I have hated being 19. Fun fact. I have hated being 19 since I turned it last year. Ugh. And it wasn't even because of, circumstances and stuff. It's just there's nothing special about being 19. There really isn't, so I'm just ready to start being in my 20s, even though I'm probably going to be more miserable than I am now. Anyway, so, yeah. Because this whole month, because for the next 22 days, because my birthday is on the 23rd, it is going to be focusing on a lot of stuff to make my 20th birthday the best I could make it ever in a long time. I've had great birthdays before, a couple years back. Last year's birthday, was not great whatsoever. Was not great at all. So, I personally am going to make my birthday the best that I could make it this year. And if anybody else has birthdays this month, then hey, congratulations, depending on what age you are. If you're 19, I feel sorry for you. But any other age than that, hey, happy birthday to you. Anyway, so we got this episode to talk about 3 separate games that I have a bit of history with each one, and also go into a few other shout-outs of games that are also turning 20 years old this year as well, that I don't have that much, special to me. They're not so special to me, but still, I wanted to bring them up. Anyway. So yeah. I was gonna say something else. Oh yeah. Next episode, expected more or not to be a little longer than this. Why? Because next episode, I have planned already, we'll be talking about 13 of my favorite movies. No, my top 13 favorite movies of all time. That sounds pretty long, doesn't it? Well, guess what? I am going to try to hopefully speed run through majority of those movies. I'm really hoping I can. Because otherwise, I'd have to get a friend to talk about some of those movies, depending on if he's watched all of them, and get into discussions and stuff, because I have a weird list of movies that I truly love. I have a lot of classic ones that I like, but even some modern new ones that I like as well. So, again, it's a weird batch, but I'll get into more detail. That video will come out most likely 2 weeks from now. That will come out in 2 Mondays from now. Probably around the same time, hopefully. But again, it's just I'm making it 2 weeks from now because I need to actually watch all those movies again. I don't watch these movies consistently whatsoever, so it just comes down to, rewatching them, forming up my opinions again, and also just talking about them, Getting into discussions that I probably had with friends and family way back then with these movies, so... Again, though, expect that. That one's going to be a fun one like this one. Just a little history, a little bit of what I like about it, what I don't like about it, so... Anyway, I think with that all said, I think we're ready to get started on our first game. And we're just gonna go down from left to right. So we're gonna be starting with Dante, and then go all the way to Sula the Snake, and, just talk about each game. So, our first game is Devil May Cry 1. This one is... Where do I start with this one? Actually, no. No, I don't want to start with Devil May Cry. I don't want to. Because I want to share that story similarly with Metal Gear Solid 2. Actually, you know what? Too late. I've already started. No, we're not making another cut, so... Anyway. So, Devil May Cry 1. Let me be real. I've loved this series, and this was actually my real first introduction into the game. But... compared to, because I grew up with a PlayStation 2, I didn't know nothing of Devil May Cry back then. Like, when this game first came out in 2001, I didn't know it. And I still didn't know it when I was growing up with a PS2. I didn't know this game existed. It just flew over my radar. It wasn't until 2017, most likely. Wasn't until 2017 where I had gotten back into, PS2 games, and I was going up to the cities with my dad, and we were going to old game stores, and I was finding so many different PS2 games, ridiculous amounts of them. You had so many different titles. You had a bunch of old FPSs from that era, you had a bunch of character action games, you had sports games, you had hunting games, you had you had a lot of games. There was even fighting games as well, I remember, and I really wanted to get a game like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but I couldn't because I was already buying 6 other games on my first trip up there. And Devil May Cry 1 was one of those games that I first bought into my return with the PS2. And I was like, okay, this looks like a cool game. It looks like it's a cool guide because I had started catching whim of the Devil May Cry series. Not too much about it, though. I'm just like, okay, it looks kind of cool. So I just thought, you know what, let's just start at the very beginning. And I got home, and I booted up the game. I didn't know what I was expecting. I didn't exactly like it at first. So it's I got to the first boss fight with the lava spider, and I'm just like, this boss is impossible. How am I supposed to beat him? And it's I kind of dropped the game for a month or two. This game kind of sucks. Because I did not find the combat enjoyable at first. I didn't find, the darkness of the castle being so, dark. So hard to go through. It was almost worse than actually playing a Resident Evil game. So, and granted, of course, yes, Devil May Cry was supposed to be Resident Evil 4, for some people that don't know. But anyway. Now, I don't know. I didn't like the game at first. I didn't. It was hard for me to truly get into it until I finally came back and I pushed through, and I could just continue to playing the game until I just hit the end. But at the same time, it's I was starting to learn stuff. I was starting to learn tactics, starting to learn combos with my weapons and my swords and my other devil arms and firearms and stuff. Shotgun was way too overpowered. I'm gonna say that now. Shotgun was way too overpowered. And it's I was using that for the most part because pistols, let's be real. Ebony and Ivory, they're iconic, but they're so garbage in-game. They're always portrayed as being like super good, but they're not. They never are, and you can't change that at all. But anyway, I don't remember everything. Like, I'm gonna have a cloudy memory talking about these 3 games, but Devil May Cry 1 just honestly, like, it had that rough time for me. It had that rough time because, like, the only other character action games I'd played at that time was Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Both very fun games, and then, just like, you know, I was going back into the PS2 era for a while, and I was playing Devil May Cry 1, so I'm like, what the heck? Why does this system not feel right? Why does this game not feel right? This game does not feel like what I played on the 360 era. So, it took a while. It took a lot of while to get comfortable, to understand what I was supposed to do, and how I was supposed to do it. It was a free choice to do it, pretty much. But again, it took way too long. And I felt like sometimes I just wasn't getting good at it until I finally beat it. And then that's where I found my first satisfaction with the Devil May Cry series. Where I'd go back actually every once in a while when I wasn't playing like DMC 3 or 4, I was like coming back to this game. Hold on. Excuse me. Anyway, yeah, I would always come back to this game because there was something about it. For as much as I did not like roaming the castle because it was so dark. Oh my god. Ugh. Okay, now I'm good. Roaming the castle, and then there's just like, like the camera, the fixated camera. Oh my god, dude, that camera sucked. And it still sucked a little bit in DMC 3, which I'm not going to get into because that game is still yet to be 20 years old. Anyway, man. I had a fun time with DMC 1, and it definitely was like that was basically like the pioneer, in a sense, of character action games, if I'm given that term the right context. It's like Devil May Cry 1 kind of just really led way into like, what other studios would do, because Capcom had made a game that originally was supposed to be just a Resident Evil sequel, but then molded it into something completely different, and it worked. And did it work for me at first? Not really, but as I grew to appreciate the system, the combat system, and even like Dante himself, even though he was like, he was a wooden plank of a character in this game, I still liked him, and I even liked his design as well. And I loved his arsenal too. I thought his arsenal was pretty cool, except for the nail gun and underwater sections. Ugh, glad those never came back. Anyway, so yeah, just Devil May Cry 1. I have quite a bit of memories, and basically, like I said, this was my true introduction into the DMC series. I didn't start with 3, I didn't start with 4. I was still far out at the time to be playing Devil May Cry 5. And I had heard a little bit of the reboot as well, but that never interested me. I never played it. You're probably also wondering why I haven't mentioned the sequel to DMZ 1, and that's for good reasons, obviously. As universally agreed upon, why nobody talks about it, and I'm thankful I didn't jumpstart with that game. Otherwise, I would have literally thrown away that copy and forget Devil May Cry was a thing entirely. So, yeah, I'm glad I started with DMC 1. It's just that idea where it's just it's that learning curve I have to understand, this is a different game compared to what I had played in the past. Because what I had played in the past was not character action games. Granted, I had my Bayonettas, I had my Metal Gear Risings, but this was the original ingredient to what popped off in the genre way back in 2001. And this, of course, did lead way into, me experiencing Devil May Cry 3 and, being arguably my favorite, aside from 5 when it came out, and DMC 4 as well, which I thought was good, but it was okay at best when it came to, level designs. But still, it's DMC... I would not probably have decided to get more into Devil May Cry were it not for the first game. Were it not, honestly. So, and speaking about first titles, oh boy. I gotta go way farther back than 2017. We're gonna be going back to 2010, 11, 12. Way back. Way back when it's just wee little Ryan was getting his second Xbox, getting his first Xbox 360, and he was wanting to play a wee little game called Halo. Yes. But, truth be told, I never played Combat Evolved at first. I never had an original Xbox. My dad did, but I don't think he ever had Halo in general, nor did he have Halo 2. But Halo 3 had piqued my interest back then. Halo 3 was that game where I'm just this is the coolest thing ever. And then there were also Halo Reach and Halo Wars, which I thought was really cool. I didn't like ODST back then. I thought it was too scary for me. I didn't like the night sections. I didn't like being so vulnerable compared to Master Chief. So I had dropped ODST for 3 years before I finally completed it. And then now I have a fond appreciation. You're probably wondering now where Combat Evolved, goes into this. And that's simple. Because this game was that, like, weird middle game for me that I played in between Halo 3, Halo Wars, and Halo Reach at the time. Like, this, I've told myself this, and I remind myself about this almost every Friday. Always, like, when I was 12 years old, I always remember my Fridays after school involving eating pizza, watching Bleach, I cannot speak today, on my laptop, and playing Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary on the living room TV. Yeah. Pizza, Bleach, Halo. On a Friday night. No friends. Sounds pretty depressing, isn't it? But let me tell you, for a 12-year-old me back then, that was the life. That was the life right there. Let me tell you. And that's where I get to finally talk about Halo, because it's like, you know, it's kind of cheating because I'm talking about the anniversary version, but that's the only version I've ever been able to play. And it's why I'm even bringing it up, because again, nonetheless, it's Combat Evolved. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get into stuff about Combat Evolved. Honestly, I like that the campaign felt a little longer compared to the other Halos. You know, it's just like levels were a lot bigger, environments were like more life-size, and enemy encounters were more occurrently. They were like occurring every so often, like they were happening like every other corner that you moved. I did not like, though, vehicles in that game. I thought vehicles were at their worst, because it's like, you could get killed so easily in a vehicle no matter what, and you just have to respawn and do it again, and you still die, and it's like... And this goes for all vehicles. This goes for all vehicles that were first in Combat Evolved. The Warthog, the Ghost, what else was there? Was the Wraith playable back then? Yeah, it was. And the Scorpion. Like, all of these vehicles were handled like garbage. Like a garbage truck. They were so bad. At least the AIs were somewhat adequate. They were at least able to act on their own and, you know, actually be supportive. But nonetheless, they died pretty quickly. Pretty quickly. I also found the story to actually be a little more nice compared to, a little better compared to, like, say, you know, Halo Reach or even Halo 3, because it's like, Halo 3 has a good story as well, but I found myself actually being so interested with the story of, like, the very first game, because it's like, it sets up so much right off the bat. Like, you know, you wake up, you're on the ship, you're fighting a bunch of Covenant, you're meeting the captain, you're joining up with Marines, you're escaping the ship, you're going down on the Halo Ring planet, and it's just like, that is quite a setup right there for a 2001 game for the Xbox. That is like a big setup. And maybe that wasn't the hottest stuff back then, but for somebody like me, I thought that was so cool, just fighting through corridors of a giant frigate-sized ship, fighting a bunch of aliens that were boarding and trespassing, and just like, get out of here. So, I thought that was very good. I thought, like, that first mission is, like, so memorable by a long shot. And then it's, like, other missions. Like, majority of other missions are memorable as well. Like, the second mission, you're on the Halo Ring, you're exploring the environments, the forest, the mountains, like, everything. Just, it's so good. And it's just driving around with the Warthog. Again, it was garbage to drive that thing, but I personally thought, like, that was a great mission to, like, truly get into the exploration of Halo. That's what I really liked about it. I forgot what the second mission was. Wasn't the second mission the rescuing of Captain Keyes? I don't remember, actually. It might have been. Either way, that night section with the introduction of the sniper rifle was really good, and I liked it. Oh, but then Longshore Beach. I think it was called the Cartographer. I think the mission name was actually the Cartographer. That has got to be the peak of Combat Evolved level design by a long shot. Let's see. A circular beach, lots of environments to explore, a lot of like secret stuff hidden around, big battles happening between you and the Covenant and the Marines backing you up at the very beginning, the touchdown of the Pelicans, like, Nothing is more hype than feeling like a super soldier going headfirst into battle. That is such a good feeling. And Halo rode on that so well. And even then, it's just like the vehicle driving around, like the Warthog driving around the beach to get inside the cartographer was so good as well. Like getting underground, you felt tough, but you also realized you were a one-man army and you were just going up against more and more enemies. And I thought that was great. I thought it was freaking cool. I died a lot to the Energy Sword Elite after activating the door, and then also, one-shotting hunters with the pistol in their face. We lived in easier times back then. But still, that satisfaction of getting through that mission was the best. And then same goes for the next mission as well. Even though I will admit, that was the first time Halo would, feel repetitive. Like, don't get me wrong. Halo is a great game, but it is hella repetitive when it comes to its missions. Like, it will use the same mission layout for, a later mission that you just have to do backwards. And it's stupid. It's bad. But it's for that first one in the snowy area with a bunch of bridges and inside corridors and grunts sleeping and elites waking them up hey, the Master Chief is here. It's so good. It's so good. And then being able to drive the Scorpion tank, amazing. Hold on, I think I lost my music. Oh, nope, never mind. Never mind. It just took a bit to play the next song. Anyway. Yeah. There's a lot I could go on. I could talk about the Flood introduction, which I thought is a very strong introduction for the Flood, and I will admit, I was very scared of the Flood because of Halo 3, and that fear even latched on to me into Combat Evolved. There was a time where I would not be able to beat Halo 3 because I was so scared of playing the mission Cortana, because you were literally on High Charity and it was just Flood infested all across the ship. And I'm just no, I don't want to fight the Flood. They're scary. I was even scared of them when I even had allies. I was so scared of them even when I had allies. I'm just this. I was afraid of anything that reminded me of zombies when I was younger. That's why I probably never got into Crackdown either, because of that opening and introduction. Which I should probably watch to see if I'm still scared of it, because that did actually mentally scar me. I think that opening of Crackdown 2 scarred me, but it wasn't as scarring as the Flood. Which nowadays, I either really like the Flood for how unique it is, or really hate because Combat Evolved always gave them shotguns, plasma rifles, and freaking rocket launchers. That was the worst feeling, going back and playing Combat Evolved. It's just the Flood, and also being very durable as well. They kept getting back up. Unless you had a shotgun or plasma rifle, you weren't doing anything to those bastards. Not even the carriers. Not even the ones that had little inklings in them. It's they were durable as heck. They were. That's what even made them a little bit more annoying in Combat Evolved as well. I mean Halo 3. Halo 3 because of the different forms and stuff, the transforming Flood forms. But it's for a first game, introducing the infected Flood, that was scary. That was a scary way of introducing them, and also making them a very formidable foe, but also being more glass cannon-y than the Covenant itself, because one, there were no overshields, but they could get back up if you shot them, and two, they had access to all weaponry within the game, except energy swords. Except them. And fuel rods. So yeah. The Flood in Combat Evolved is a beast. They're a monster. They are a monster foe to face. But again, it's just shotguns and plasma rifles make them trivial as heck. Which is also probably what I gotta remind myself when I go back today and play Combat Evolved. So yeah. And the soundtrack. I want to quickly sidetrack away from the main game to the soundtrack. Martin O'Donnell, I think that was the guy who composed Halo for the longest time. Let me actually look up very quickly. I want to look up Martin O'Donnell the myth, the man, the legend himself. He did a great, like, this soundtrack is so memorable. I remember back in high school, I was listening to Combat Evolved soundtracks, especially Anniversary Editions, just on loops and back and forth, listening to his music. Because he had just, like, had a way to just really entice conflict. And it was so good. It was such a boost-basting soundtrack that made it 10 times more badass to play listening to this music. So, God, I cannot credit Martin O'Donnell enough. All I could just say is, listen to more of his Halo soundtracks, because he made, like, I'm pretty sure a majority of them up until Halo 4. So, again, oh my God, the soundtrack is so freaking good. Anyway, back to the main game. The library. Oh God. Everybody's bane of existence when it came to Combat Evolved. It was mine as well. It was mine too. I hated it. I hated it like anybody else because it was so freaking unfair. The Flood was your only enemy in that mission, and you had to just wait around a giant door for like 5 minutes before you could keep going to another door for 5 more minutes just to fight off more Flood, and then just to run around and hopefully not get blown away with a rocket launcher, because at least 5 of those popped out of nowhere on some occasions. So, man. Then there was like the last few missions, where it's just like, the trying to find Captain Keyes and, like blowing up the Covenant ship where Covenant was fighting the Flood. That one was okay. That had no specialty to it. But then it was like the final mission as well, where it's like, you were back on the Pillar of Autumn and you were just fighting Covenant and Flood nonstop. And it was just this 3-way battle, and especially with and also with the Forerunners as well, with the Sentinels. And 343 Guilty Spark. I hated that last fight. I actually hated that. Having to chuck grenades or explosives into the engine hatches to overload it was the worst thing ever. I say that's almost worse now than going through the library, was just chucking grenades because you had to aim it right. You had to. And I was not good with my grenades. And I kept freaking dying because the Flood was everywhere, and so were the Sentinels, and it's just like the moving platforms were especially making it harder as well, and it's like, oh, God, I was just so glad to finally get to the Warthog run so I could be fine, and for that first Warthog run, it's not my favorite. I still prefer Halo 3's, but, it's a classic. It's a classic way of, tying up a game, and especially if you got the, special ending as well, where Sergeant Johnson is like hugging an elite after they were fighting, and the Pillar of Autumn is about to blow up like a chunk of the Halo ring, which, come to think of it, I don't know how that worked. I don't know how that much explosiveness, that explosive power of a frigate ship that wasn't even the size of, even a bit of the Halo ring, was able to blow off a chunk of it. I don't understand how that exactly worked. But, it was 2001, so I guess you could get away with it, and nobody's gonna question it anymore, so... Or maybe there was a reason to it. Maybe there was, and that's what I'll probably find out when I go back and play it. Anyway. Yeah. So... And again, it's like, I want to make people understand, I did not play the original Xbox version. I was only able to play Anniversary Edition on the 360. Because I never had Xbox Live, and I never had access, of course, to the old Xbox. Again, my dad used to have one, but then he sold it, like, right after I was, like, 5. I didn't even know back then. I knew he had an Xbox, but I never bothered to play it because I had the PS2. And just... yeah. But again, Halo Combat Evolved was that game where it's just... I didn't play it first because it was always Halo 3, or especially Reach, but Combat Evolved was that game where just like, I didn't feel like playing either game, and I still wasn't feeling like going back to ODST at the time, and when I was kind of burnt out with Wars, because I burnt way too much time on Halo Wars than I should have, playing skirmish battles and all that stuff. Granted that Halo Wars did not get me into the tactical genre of gaming. that did not get me into this Command and Conquer-esque genre like it would have possibly. It didn't. I just played it because it was Halo, and I could control big-ass armies. So, that's all. Let me actually get a drink quickly. Hold on a sec. Ugh. Oh god. Ugh. That burnt a little. Anyway, so, do I have anything else to say about Combat Evolved? I do like the anniversary graphics, but from what I heard, and I think I also realize this now years later, the anniversary graphics are good, but it totally ruins the style, and especially like the layout of the game, because all they basically did was make them prettier, but the hitboxes were still the same. Like, example, you were shooting behind from a tree, like a decently sized tree, in the anniversary graphics. If you were trying to shoot behind that tree, you would most likely still hit that tree, because in the original graphics, the tree was slightly bigger. So you'd be looking at the tree, and your hit marker would still be hitting the tree itself in the original graphics. But switching back to anniversary, you get that feeling that you're not looking at the tree still, and you could shoot around it, but you can't. It's stuff like that that did definitely ruin it, and especially when I was so low on ammo and I was afraid of getting into big battles with Covenant and Floods in the snowy areas, and you had like barely any cover, especially on anniversary graphics, because it's like, apparently those objects were bigger in the original version compared to the anniversary. And a lot of people, I remember watching a video about it a few months back, and it's just like, it was a horrible choice. And also the fact that, things did not look as, slightly colorful or even like unique in the anniversary graphics. I don't care either way. For little young 10, 11-year-old me, who was playing between 3 and Reach and Combat Evolved, I didn't care. It was Halo. I didn't know any better. So yeah, I'm glad I get to play this game, and I'm glad I got to play this game just like Devil May Cry 1, and yeah, I really hope Halo Infinite is good. Anyway, I think that's enough about Combat Evolved. Now let's get into our third game, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. Oh boy. Where do I start with this one? Well, let me be honest, my experience with this game is similar to that of DMC1. It actually was, because I did not intentionally know this franchise at all. I didn't. I didn't know this game I didn't know this was a franchise back then in 2017. Actually, that's a lie. I kind of did, but at the same time. I think it was just like, somewhere at the near-end death of MGS5, but I still didn't even know what was happening. But I'm just like, hey, I'm getting back into PlayStation 2. I'm picking up Devil May Cry 1. So, this game, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. That looks pretty cool. For some that also may probably not know, I was a PS2 baby, because I did not have a PS1 at the time. I never even cared for a PS1. I know years later, like back in freaking 2017, Metal Gear Solid 1 was just a PS1 game, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to go out and find that and then go and try to find everything to set up a PS1, especially if it was way more expensive back then. That changed, of course, last year. Anyway, back in 2017, just like, I played DMC1, and I'm just like, I don't like this game really, so I dropped it. Then I'm like, okay, so let's try out Metal Gear Solid 2. And I had a hard time. I was fighting with the controls with the game at the very start. I did not know what was happening, because it was that same thing that I forgot to mention with DMC1, because control schemes were much different than what I was used to when it came to character action games like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Rising. It's like, okay, what was it? Triangle was either the jump or attack button with the swords, with the devil arms. And then aiming was weirder as well, because it's also shared with Metal Gear Solid 2, but you had to hold down the RB button and then press square. Like, you had to hold it down and press square. It was so weird. Oh wait, no. The attack button for DMC1 was the O button, and the triangle button was the jump button. So that literally left the X button just being like a kind of like action button. Like, you find an item, you pick it up with the X button. That was not in my mind process back then when I was younger, because I was so used to like X being the jump button, O probably being like a reload button or even like a punch button, triangle being like, a menu button sort of, something like that, a miscellaneous button, and the square button also being an action button as well. And then the RT button also being like, the firing button as well. Like, that did not go through my brain in DMC1, and it did not do this with Metal Gear Solid 2. So, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do, like, because I understood that it was also like a sneaking game, it was an espionage game or whatever. So it's like, I tried to be sneaky, but I did not have it in me. I would just always go guns blazing, and I did not stand a chance. So, man. And again, it's like, my mind is very foggy when it came to remembering how I got through the first episode, the first chapter of the game. I don't remember how I did that. I just did. I don't know how I got through the Olga fight, and I did not certainly know how I was able to get through the freaking taking pictures of Metal Gear Ray. I did not know how I got through that one in time as well, and not getting caught all the time. I don't know. That was a weird time for me. And the story made no sense to me whatsoever at all, because again, remember, I did not play Metal Gear Solid 1 at that time, and nor did I have an understanding of anything of the Metal Gear universe outside of Rising, which takes place pretty much after the finale of Metal Gear Solid. So, yeah, I was on for a weird trip. I was set up for a weird trip, and it didn't help that I did not understand any of the characters, why they were here, why they did what they did. They didn't especially help with the Big Shell chapter as well. It's like, I wouldn't say I disliked most of the characters, but it's like, for who they were and what they did and how they went about it, how they were like shown and how like they were portrayed, I didn't exactly like it at first. I didn't. Because I'm just like, I was kind of here for the game itself, and the story was here kind of like, really rubbing it the wrong way for me. Okay, again, remember, I have to emphasize, I was not that kind of gamer back then where it's just like, the story was my first thing. I wanted to go head deep in first with the game itself, with the gameplay. Whether it was an FPS or an action game, an adventure game, hell, even a puzzle game. The story was second to me. The story was secondhand to me. It's like, I didn't care. Like, I liked Halo's story, but I cared more for its gameplay, even though it was basically the same. That did not mesh with me well when it came to Metal Gear Solid 2, because it's like, I wanted to just play the game. I didn't want to hear about it. And I didn't want to hear all these weird, like, references and jokes and, like, all this weird stuff that Metal Gear Solid was known for that I did not understand about fully at the time. So it's like, getting into this did not help me. It did not. It did not whatsoever. But I just remember, okay, it was a few months, because, yet again, I dropped this game as well after a few months, because I'm like, I don't understand what I'm doing. And I hated some of the boss fights, and I hated some of the sections. I still hate some of the sections as well. Like the, what was it? Oh, man. Oh, yeah, you had to snipe off, like, the detonators on the bridge. Otherwise, if you didn't, it's like, you would still set them off, and it would blow up the entire bridge, with you included. It's like, I hated that. I also hated the section where you had to find Secretary Ames with a bunch of hostages. And it's like, you had a minimal time to do it because, like, you had to always knock out the guard. And you had to find Ames, and that was super difficult, especially with a heart beater. God, there were so many other sections I did not like. There were so many I did not like. Ooh, yes. I think the worst one I had was when the section before the hostages, before you actually had to find Ames among the hostages, you had to, like, drag an enemy soldier to, like, the ID scanner for the eye scanner to, like, gain access. I did not know what to do. I did not know how to grab anybody. I didn't know what the grab button was. I didn't. And even if I did, I was mostly, like, just throwing people for the most part behind my back. It's just like, I didn't know how to, like, hold and grab a person and keep them so I could scan them and then knock them out and then go into the next section. I didn't realize that. So it's like, for the longest time, I'm like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do here? I'm killing people, and it's like, they keep on coming, and they keep catching me, and then I'm dead, and it's like, I don't know. I just did not know how to do that section. And then it goes a little farther down the line. The vamp fight, I did not like whatsoever. Vamp's fight at the near end was horrible. Did not like it. Not like that one bit. It took me so many tries. It takes me at least 10 tries per playthrough to actually get through that boss fight. Because it is superly annoying. It is stupidly annoying to fight. Oh, God. And then there was also the... what was it? There was something else after that. The bridge section? Nah. I thought the bridge section was okay. It was only ever annoying when apparently I thought I sniped off all the frag mines off, like, the little bridges. So, like, what was her name? EE? Yeah, EE. Was like, like, she could, like walk around it, but apparently there was a mine still there, even though I had shot off all of them. That was annoying as hell. That was very annoying. Also, I was not the greatest sniper back then. Like, I may have not had MLG 360 no-scopes on Halo, but let me tell you, dealing with a sniper rifle on a PS2 controller was not the best. It was not the best in the slightest. Oh, that tastes terrible. Ugh, that water. Don't ever buy natural spring water from Casey's. Never. Because it tastes like a lot of cardboard. It really does. Speaking of cardboard, boxes. I didn't care. I didn't understand the whole point about boxes, I thought they were kind of dumb. I'm just like, yeah, it's the thing the main character does. But is it really good? Is it, like, actually good to use? Like, it's like a pure definition of a gimmick item. It really is. But of course, it's memorable. Anyway. Yeah. And then there was the Metal Gear Ray fight, which, to be honest, I thought was a highlight for the game. I thought that fight was actually kind of neat. Just fighting against a bunch of Metal Gear Rays. You were never able to destroy any of them, but you were able to weaken them. But again, that leads into the idea where it's just like, your only usable weapon against them was the rocket launcher. The lock-on rocket launcher. And maybe a few other explosives here and there. I'm pretty sure, but still. Then it's like, all the cutscenes that happened before that. Like, okay, the story went into this weird thing. Okay, I should probably say this is going to be a spoiler warning as well. For anybody that's probably interested in Metal Gear Solid 2. If you want to skip this part, I would say come back in about maybe 20 minutes. Maybe 20 minutes. So let's give it that. Anyway. Oh, man. Actually, I'll put a link. I actually put in the description of this video where to skip to if you don't want to hear stories about the end of Metal Gear Solid 2. Anyway. No, it's just like the whole idea that Raiden was like that's not exactly working with Colonel Campbell and Rose, in the fact like he was kind of like, I guess, brainwashed by the Patriots. And it's like, again, I'm going off of what I remember from what I first remember when first beating the game. And it's like, Raiden was captured after Snake and, Hal Emmerich were like wanting to escape the Big Shell, but they had to still go after Solidus Snake. And it's like, you had to run around on the, what was it? Metal Gear. I forgot what the Metal Gear type name was. It was basically a giant Metal Gear that housed a bunch of Metal Gears within it. And it's like, it had the super AI that was going to control it as well. And it's like, Raiden was in there, he was butt naked, he had no weapons, he had to run around, and he also had to deal with the codex calls from Campbell and Rose just like glitching up and all that stuff. Like, I thought that was actually like game breaking or something. I thought that was actually my game being busted, but it wasn't. And it's just like, you find out at the very end when you fight Solidus that it was actually the Patriots controlling Campbell's like codex call and Rose's as well. And it's like you were manipulated by the Patriots to do their bidding to stop Solidus. And it's so bad. Like, it was so mind-blowing to me how this all happened when I had forgotten like everything else in the hours prior to the game. Like, I did not understand why everybody in this game was in here for one reason or another. I didn't know why Raiden was here. I didn't know why Solidus was here. I didn't know why Snake was here, disguised as a completely different person. I don't know why Vamp or Fortune, Fat Man, or just like anybody else was in this game. I don't know what the point of it was. I forgot to mention the Fat Man fight, huh? I guess I did. I looked over that one. That one sucked. I will admit, I hated the Fat Man fight. Fat Man sucked. So... man. Oh, geesh. Keeping going with, spoilers. But, yeah. And it's just like, Revolver Ocelot was apparently working with the Patriots the whole time, betraying Solidus, killing Fortune, taking over a Metal Gear Ray, but then Liquid Snake, like, comes back for a body swap and like, brothers, the time has come. I'm going to stop the Patriots. And tries killing them all, but then Ocelot takes over again. And it's like, it just descends, like the giant Metal Gear descends into New York Harbor and like hits the state building, like the New York State building of whatever. I don't know my landmarks, okay? I don't know them. Flame me in the comments for it. Anyway, and it's just like, it's this weird ass back and forth between Solidus, like being all philosophical with Raiden, but then also the Patriots talking with you about like evolution and like the idea that you should not have a free will. I will say that now, that shit really hurt my brain. That shit actually hurt my brain. And it also made me kind of emphasize a bit more with Solidus. It actually made me emphasize with him a little bit more, even though I just saw him as like another villain. And it's just like, I had fought Solidus, I thought that fight was kind of hard, and it's just like, I finally got through, the credits rolled, and especially after the talk with Snake and Raiden about just like finding his own true self, and also joining back with the actual Rose and all that, and it's like, I was left with so many questions about this game after my first run. Because, like, I took a few months away off of it, then I came back to fully play it, to fully complete it, and I am so shocked by how this story ended. Like, this was a first for me. This was a very first for me when it came to, like, a video game having this insane of a story. That it actually led me the summer after first beating it, the summer after beating that, so how do I put this? Okay, so I beat it in a November. I think it was like 2017 maybe. And I went back and played it a second time, having a little bit of a better understanding after, like, looking up search forums, watching videos about the story itself, and even, like, seeing other people talk about it. And it's like, I came back a second time to fully play through the game. And at the end of it all, oh god, sorry. I had found myself being a lot more satisfied with it than I ever was with everything about it. Granted, there were still the sections that I mentioned that were super annoying and, like, pissed me off a lot. Those sections still suck. They still do. And I gotta deal with those in, like, next week, probably. So, that's gonna happen. But I just have to say, when it came to, like, understanding characters better and, like, taking a better appreciation of the story and the situation around me with the big shell, and, like, you know, trying to get through this as Raiden, but also, like, finding the small, tiny details that Kojima put around the game, the little Easter eggs and whatnot, it's just, like, it was an experience like none other. It was like that experience with DMC3. It was like that. So it's like, playing Metal Gear Solid 2 the second time around was like, it was 100% better than the very first time, because I had a better understanding, and I actually followed along with every last bit I could, and I loved it. So much so that I kept playing the game over and over and over again, and I was watching other people playing it, and I'm just like, yes, this game is stupid, but it's great. And it also has an amazing story with a good cast of characters and themes that I really do like, and some things I'm still not well in tuned with, like government and politics and stuff. You ever try to talk to me about that, you're probably just gonna hear me reference the Patriots a lot, and that's all I'm gonna say. But it also made me have a fonder appreciation of Solidus Snake as a villain. Like, not just outside of his philosophies and whatnot, and also having a cool suit of armor with tentacles and dual katanas and an eye patch to look like Big Boss, but, I don't know, just like, understanding what he was about, what he was wanting to do, to like to liberate everybody, and to become the Sons of Liberty from the Patriots, I thought that was a worthy goal. But sadly, he stood no chance. That was a sad thing. That is like the sad thing about Solidus entirely. Just, even though he had somewhat of a foolproof plan, he did not realize that the Patriots were like 10 steps ahead of him. They had already planned everything ahead of time before Solidus even did. Like, the moment he went into hiding after the events of Metal Gear Solid 1, it's just like, you know, he started planning, he like, he recruited Dead Cell, and then it's just like, he planned the raid with the Russians on the Big Shell, where the president was going to be having like a speech or whatever. He had planned all that, but what he didn't realize was that there were already members of the Patriots, or just like pawns of the Patriots, like Ocelot, already within the ranks of Solidus. And it's just like, it all came crumbling down at the moment Solidus, like, he was so close of just winning what he wanted. And what he wanted was the ability to fight the Patriots, to free America from the grasp of this dark government. And sadly, it just didn't happen. It just didn't. And that makes it even more sad. But the fact that he was ready to go down with his plans, so that someday his memories will be lived on by other people, his beliefs would it would grasp on to other people, the genes of him, because again, remember, when it came to the clones of Big Boss, they were not able to reproduce for some reason. Big Boss's clones, Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, Solidus, were just never able to reproduce. And because of that just means now they just had to leave ideals, they had to leave ideas and motives to other people. and hopefully they can live those on. I could probably talk about, a good villain video about Solidus Snake if I wanted to, but still. To kind of wrap up, it's just like, I found Solidus as being like one of those villains I actually really did like in a long time. Because all like the main villains I had like met in video games at that time, like before Solidus, was like, oh, I'm big, bad, and evil, and I'm gonna, like, conquer the world, or I'm gonna destroy the world, or I wanna beat up the main character. It's like, that wasn't what Solidus was. That's not what Solidus was. He was nowhere close to that. He wasn't. He wanted to fight. He wanted to, he was doing bad things for a good cause. For his beliefs. And it may have not also been entirely agreed upon by other people. I mean, for one, he captured the president of the United States. And two, he had bluffs saying he had nuclear weapons that he was gonna fire upon New York. And three, the fact that he was doing this all around the Big Shell. The fact that this happened a few years after the containment incident, whatever that was called, whatever that first chapter was called. It's like, you could argue, yes, it was a plan that, was not well intended. Granted, he hurt people, he killed people, Detso killed people, the Russians probably killed people, but Sokolov's no, not Sokolov, god damn it, that's MGS3. What was his name? We're just gonna say the Russians for now. Anyway, just, oh man. Yeah. Again, just made me emphasize with a villain a lot more than I could ever before, because I just didn't have that in my mind, in the back of my mind back then, up until this point. So, I think to wrap up with Metal Gear Solid 2, all I will just say is that, again, it started the way Devil May Cry 1 did for me. I did not understand how this game worked. I did not know why all this was happening. I didn't understand the story whatsoever. But it's after that first time, and I went back to actually experience stuff again, then I had grown a fonder appreciation of the game, but then also of the series as a whole. And to reiterate as well, Devil May Cry does definitely pale in comparison to later DMC games. When it comes down to it, outside of the second game, which is god-awful trash fire, DMC1 has no sauce whatsoever. You go back and try to play DMC1 after you have played 5 different character action games, say you play both Bayonetta games, you play both Beautiful Joe games, and then you also play Metal Gear Rising, and you try to go back and play Devil May Cry 1, you're gonna have a hard time, because it's this game is bare bones at max, to this day. And that's how I'm gonna feel going back and playing it, because it's not gonna have the fun stuff that I had in DMC3, DMC4, or 5, for that matter. It's still gonna be Devil May Cry, of course, but it's it is that blueprint. It is that very first skeleton blueprint for what the franchise would be later. And Devil May Cry 1 is I would not say is far from being my favorite game. I would say probably, I think when in terms of style and all that, I would say I kind of like it a little bit more than 4, but when comparing it in gameplay wise, it is the weakest by far. It is definitely the weakest. Second weakest, I would say. Yeah, second weakest because of DMC2 being the absolute most dumbfounded, mindless game that had no sense or reason at all. But again, it's and the same goes for Metal Gear Solid 2. It's some parts of it I thought were not that great, especially when it came to the bomb sections, and then some of the boss fights as well. I thought those were very tedious and annoying, and very, very hard to deal with. So, man. And again, it's Metal Gear Solid 2 eventually led me to playing Metal Gear Solid 3, which I had bought at the same time of the second game. And also, much like the prior 2 games I had just mentioned, yeah, it's Metal Gear Solid 3, I didn't understand what the hell I was doing. I did not know what was going on. I jumped into this game after I dropped Metal Gear Solid 2 the first time, for like the first month I played it, I did not like it, so I thought MGS3 would be better. No, I had the same experience and I dropped that game. And I didn't beat that game until a little later after playing Sons of Liberty. And again, it's like, maybe I'll probably talk about both Devil May Cry 3 and Metal Gear Solid 3 because both those games I love very well. I love those games almost as equally as I love Metal Gear Solid 2. Not so much DMC 1, not so much of the first DMC, but still. Yeah. So like, what can you take out of this? Well, here's the thing. 2 of these games were like the originals. Devil May Cry 1 and Halo Combat Evolved, it's like, they started the franchises that they were very well known for, and especially in their respective genres. And the fact that they are both turning 20 years old this year, like Devil May Cry is turning 20 in August, so that's like 5 months away now. Oh my god, is that really? Wait. April, May, June, July. Oh my god, it is actually. Holy crap. Hold on. I want to double check actually. I think I did. Maybe? Hold on. I want to double check. Yeah. Wait, it's gonna be August 23rd. Huh. Interesting. So it is. So as soon as it's my birthday on March 23rd, then it will exactly be 5 months away from turning 20 years old. Go figure. But still. And Combat Evolved came out around like a little bit before or after Metal Gear Solid 2 because they both came out in the same month of November. November 15th. I see. Okay, wait a second. Did my music pause? Yes, I want to keep. Yeah, so November 15th for Combat Evolved. But what was Metal Gear Solid 2? Okay, yeah. So, Combat Evolved came out exactly 2 days after Metal Gear Solid 2. So that's going to be like a weird way to celebrate both those games. It's going to be a very, very weird way. Anyway, just like these 3 games, they have been stuck with me for a while. Like, I would say if I had to rank each one, I'd probably have to say, if I had to choose the top one, like if I had to choose the one game that I would say I have enjoyed the most over the last few years, it would definitely be Metal Gear Solid 2, by a long shot. Like, playing it a second time over, and then fully understanding what this story was about, but still discovering more about it, and even possibly even up to today, I think that's one of the greatest experiences I've ever had with a video game, and with its storytelling. I would probably then say Combat Evolved would be second, because, I love Halo, and it's like, I say this to myself all the time, but Halo is like, has remained one of the biggest pillars for me when it comes to my life as a gamer. Like, Halo is what I truly started with. Like, I started in the PS2 era with a bunch of, like, random games and stuff, but when it came to the 7th generation with 360 and all that, Halo was where I was, like, craved into. I was molded into because of Halo. And it's like, sure, Combat Evolved wasn't the first game I played, but it's still a very enjoyable game to play through. Missions, combat, enemy-wise, and even story-wise. It's a very fun game. So then that leaves Devil May Cry 1, where it's like, I still think the game is fun, it's just like, compared to its later entries, it is bare bones at best. It is a bare bones system. There's stuff to possibly still, like, style upon, but going back all the way, it's going to be very weird compared to what I played, like, a few months ago with Devil May Cry 5. When I was going back and playing that when Virgil was released again for the special edition. But, yeah. So, I think, what are we at right now? We are at 1 hour and 4 minutes. Ooh, okay. Alright. So I actually do kind of want to wrap up very soon. I don't want to make this any longer than I have to, so we're going to wrap up. There's a few games I do want to mention quickly that are also turning 20 years old this year. I do want to mention a few others. So first off, we have Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney for the Game Boy Advance. Turned 20 years old on October 12th this year. I want to briefly mention that because, like, it was last year I had actually gotten into the Phoenix Wright trilogy of games, and even though I still have to go back and beat the first game, I think it's a neat series. I think it's neat. I like it. Outside of its, like, jokes and memes and all that stuff, I think it's a pretty, like, solid series. I think it is. There's also Crazy Taxi, which came out for the PlayStation 2. It was an arcade game before, like a year or two prior, but it came out for the PS2 on May 14th, so that's actually 2 months away. That's like a little over 2 months away now. Crazy Taxi, again, another small, neat little game that I got to play last year when I was buying a bunch of them during the pandemic, so I like Crazy Taxi. I really do. And finally, I want to pull up a picture very quickly of it because this game, I did not realize actually had something special to me. I want to pull up a picture just very, very quickly. Hold on. Yeah, I want to do this very quickly. Okay, I'm probably gonna butcher the second half of this name, but it is Hostile Waters Antius Rising. Now, what's special about this game that possibly never anybody heard about? Well, the reason I bring it up is because, funny enough, this game actually got released in Europe on the same day I was born, March 23rd, 2001, in Europe. It didn't come to the West until like a few months later, but it's like, the fact that this was first released in Europe on March 23rd, on the same day of my birth, that's something special right there. That actually is. So, I just wanted, again, I have no idea what this game is. I should actually go and play this. I actually bought this on Steam a few months ago, because I was actually planning to like see what this game was all about, because it's like, you know, it's the game of my birth year. It's the game of my birth year in Europe, even though I don't live in Europe. Anyway, so, but yeah. I think that's gonna actually wrap it up for this episode. Yeah. I've had this idea in my head for the longest time to talk about, like, these 3 special games, because I did not realize that these all came out in 2001. But no, I really wanted to talk about these games, and I'm glad I was finally able to. So just to quickly wrap up, again, next episode is not going to possibly come out until, what is it? It's the 1st, so what's the date going to be? The next episode is not going to come out until the 15th, because I have a lot of movies to watch. I have 13 movies to watch, and I gotta find a way to speed run through a majority of them in a podcast episode. Like, I don't exactly want to split it up into 2 episodes, but still, if I have to, I might. I might have to. We'll see. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed episode 3 for these soon-to-be 20-year-old games, and I'm gonna keep going with this for my 20th birthday. Woo! I am so happy to finally get out of being 19. But I am also more than hyped to start playing these games all over again. Like, I'm not gonna do anything special with my playthroughs of these games. I'm just gonna run them like normal. Gonna start with Halo Combat Evolved, and then I'm gonna do Devil May Cry 1, and then Metal Gear Solid 2. Hopefully I get those all done before my actual birthday, because it sucks because my birthday is on a Tuesday, and that's gonna be during a college day. So I do hope I get it all done by then. Anyway, this is where I'm gonna wrap up. Again, hope you all enjoy. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet. and I will see you all in about 2 weeks. Thanks for watching. This is Ryan Bowman, aka Limoto, and until then.